everybody, and welcome to episode 11 of the Corman Fantasy Cast. Thanks for joining us here in Sweaty Garage Studios. Got the return of Kevin, our host, and I am looking forward. He has a lot to talk about today. A lot has happened in his absence.
A lot has happened in my absence in the Corman, and a lot has happened in my personal life. Donald Trump is going to be our next president. I'm not saying if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I just can't fucking believe it.
Obama, you're fired.
You're fired. Yeah. So, we have so much to get to. We are coming back off of our Fantasy Cast bye week, and here we are coming down the home stretch. We have 3 weeks of competition left, and the margin between the number 1 team and the number 11 team in the Corman is 3 games. No runaway teams. This thing is going to come down to the wire. We have some people who are kind of solidified, a few people at the top that we know are probably going to be in the playoffs, but are still jockeying for position, and a lot of people...
Nobody's safe.
Nobody's safe. And a lot of people in those lower seeds who are really walking a razor's edge. 4 teams at 5-5, 1 team at 4-6, and we are really coming down to the nitty-gritty here. I got so much to talk about. Like I said, we're gonna preview the playoffs. We're gonna get into our game capsules. We're gonna do it all, baby.
I also want to mention 2 people couldn't handle the league. Bowed out.
Yes.
Wayne and Boomer. Guess the Corman was too fanatical for them.
Too hardcore.
They couldn't handle the constant alerts on their phone. Or the pressure to maintain your lineup?
Yeah. My buddy Boomer had a little bit of a crisis, and I had a bit of a meltdown in the midst of his crisis. We will get to all of that later. But right now, what do you say we get into some capsules?
Let's do it.
All right, here we are getting into our Week 10 game capsules. Starting off right out of the gate, we had Dolomite over Bombo Berry. 104-86. Dolomite wins his 2nd straight contest after dropping the previous 4 and looks to be back on track with 20-point performances from everyone on his roster whose name has a B in it. Big Ben, Antonio Brown, Doug Baldwin all dropping 20-plus points.
You know, Antonio Brown and Doug Baldwin were the 2 top-scoring wide receivers this week.
In the entire league.
Yep.
And they both happen to be on your roster.
And I both acquired them recently in trades.
That's right. It just goes to show you. It is so different. The roster that you have on opening day and the roster that you have toward the end of the season, if you play your cards right, it can look drastically different for the better. In terms of Bombo, he continues to struggle. After coming out of the gates 3-1, he's gone 2-4 over his last 6 games. Beers gets a decisive victory over Dak Attack, 113-81. Look, Beers runs away with this match thanks to Ezekiel Elliott dropping 39 points. Now, just to put that in perspective, if you add up all of Dak Attack's wide receivers and running backs all together, they have a total of 39 points. Okay? Beers improves to 6-4 and is in a great position right now to make the playoffs with 3 weeks remaining in the regular season. Dak Attack ends his 5-game winning streak, but it had to end at some point. But he still stays at the top of the division and is still tied for the best record in the Corman this season.
Dallas is scary.
They are. We all underestimated them at the beginning of this year. We all laughed when they came out of the gate with a good record. But let's face it, Dallas is for fucking real. Yeah. In our next matchup, Go to Hell Bell gets a victory over overall number 1 team in the Corman, Teabaggers, by a score of 100-91, approximately. Look, the simple version here is that Lev Bell came to play this week, scoring 24 points. Teabaggers had his usual dominant performance from David Johnson, but other than that, it was pretty average performance from his team.
It looks like Le'Veon Bell took your team name change very personally.
Took it to heart.
And he performed for you this week.
Yeah, he did. With the win, Go to Hell Bell evens up his record at 5-5 and stays in the playoff hunt. And Teabaggers, even with the loss, remains the overall number 1 team in the Corman.
Yeah, and this game he lost, but sitting on his bench on bye was Amari Cooper, T.Y. Hilton, and Golden Tate.
And he still scores 91 points. Pretty good showing in a loss, I hate to admit, Mike. In our next contest, I Suck beats Old Dirty BJ 79-75. I Suck takes this close 5-point decision Old Dirty needed a monster game from Eli and only got a very good one. Eli scored 20 points. This loss all but eliminates Old Dirty from playoff contention, although mathematically he's still not eliminated. It's going to be hard to come back from a 3-7 record. I Suck gets single digits from 7 of 9 starters, including a donut from Dorial Green Beckham, and still finds a way to win.
Don't get me started on him.
And look, good for you, I Suck. After starting 1-3, you've won 5 of your last 6, but you lost both your matchups to Knuckles. But beat Knuckles last year.
If only everyone could have I Suck's schedule.
Seriously. Catching everybody at the right time. High on AJ's Green. Anally rapes Mohawk Maniacs by a score of 115-85. AJ's Green rolls to a victory here and stays in the playoff hunt, back to a 5-5 record. It's been a really tough season for Mohawk Maniacs as they dropped to 2-8. Not the kind of season you want to end your Corman career on, but Wayne has spoken. AJ's Green has been wildly inconsistent this season. Win 1, lose 1, win 3, lose 4, and now to win 1. He has the second most points in the Corman, but only a 5-5 record to show for it.
I like tomatoes sometimes.
That was good. And then our closest matchup of the week, decided by less than a point. Adrian Peterson takes out Kickers Lives Matter by like 81 point something to 80 point something. Right?
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
Less than a point.
Peterson has quietly compiled a 7-3 record, tied for tops in the league. He's all but guaranteed a playoff spot at this point, just worries about jockeying for that seeding. Kickers Lives Matter dropped 4 straight after exploding out of the gates with a 5-1 record. Now Kickers Lives Matter is in a 4-way logjam on the bubble with a 5-5 record. Looks like the movie's second half of horror was based on a true story. Good call there, Mike.
Burn.
But do not count out Kickers Lives Matter yet, because the final 3 weeks of the season are going to be crazy. And in our final matchup of the week, Knuckles takes out Boomer, 122-87. So look, I barely keeps my season alive. I barely keeps my season alive thanks to some recent roster moves. Marcus Mariota has been on fire for the last few weeks. He is hotter than De Silva's crotch after he leaves his lady of the night. And look, Ryan Matthews, of all players, posted 27 points for me after being abandoned like a baby in a dumpster by various owners of this league. Look, too much needs to happen for me to be considered a serious contender yet. But after a 1-6 start, 3 straight wins is kind of a miracle. And a 4-6 record is only 2 games out with 3 weeks remaining. So
we did say when you're going through all those troubles, your team was putting up points. You just had bad matchups. So it's not a surprise that your team's coming around.
Right. It's a long crawl to respectability, but it wasn't without its bumps in the road. I kind of hit rock bottom this week. Should we get right into that?
I mean, I'm a little curious myself. You teased me with it earlier, but I want to hear it.
Okay. So, on Sunday morning, I was in South Carolina getting ready to leave South Carolina to drive back to Charlotte, where I had a flight at 6 a.m. on Monday morning. So I go, and as I'm having my morning coffee, I look at the matchups, and I see that Boomer, for the first time in about 5 weeks, it seems, decided that now he would set his lineup at full strength when he was facing me. This kind of sent me off the deep end, because really, let's face it, people against him basically had bye weeks these last few weeks because he wasn't setting his lineup, and I was kind of riding him for it. We all kind of were. But then he decided on the week that he's going to play his best friend, that's when he's going to set his lineup, and me being an absolute desperate maniac, knowing that if I lose one more game, that really kind of set me off in a way that was very embarrassing. I went on a text stream of consciousness that I have been too embarrassed since to look at, but part of my mea culpa, that's Latin for my apologies, to Boomer was I told him that I would punish myself by reading this aloud for the first time since I actually typed it. So, I'll start off by saying that at 7:47 a.m.
Hold on, before you start, I'm looking at a screen right now, and there is the biggest text bubble I've ever seen in my life.
It's bad, guys. It's bad.
All that green is you?
Yeah, that's all me.
Okay.
That's all me. Okay.
I'm gonna get comfortable.
Yeah, get comfortable. So at 7:47 a.m., I text Boomer after looking at our matchup, "Fuck you and your lineup." He texts back some incoherent stuff that only I understand because I had been friends with Boomer for so long. Something about that video that I posted with him. He was really upset about that for some reason. But let's just get into it. So I will read this now, a cold read. The first time I'm actually looking at this since I sent it. And here we go. What are you even talking about? I erased the video off my phone, by the way. I didn't want to ever worry about hurting your feelings again. But seriously, fuck you for giving everyone a free pass except your best friend. Bet you're too busy to set it next week and give some other random asshole an automatic win. You better hope I don't win, because I will tear you down on the message board and via text message every day for the rest of the football season. I promise you this. I am fighting and scratching and clawing for every win. I am fighting and scratching and clawing for every win because my season depends on it, and it makes me sick to think that you, who I brought into the Corman, and doesn't even give a shit about fantasy, and doesn't even give a shit about fantasy, and only cares about beating me. God, this is so bad. And only cares about.
Just do it, bro. Don't skip.
All right, wait.
Don't skip.
All right.
No skippies.
All right. Who I brought into the Corman and doesn't even give a shit about fantasy and only cares about beating me and lets all these other assholes who talk shit about you on the message board all the time walk all over you and get a free pass. I'm actually glad you set your lineup, because then I can shit all over you nonstop and know that you are at full strength and remind you of it and remind the whole league of it. Oh my God. I'm going to beat the guy with no Corman integrity. I'm going to destroy you today and never let you live it down as long as we both live. You better hope that I die first. Because if you die before me, I'm going to bring this up at your funeral. I will tell all of your closest friends and family about this.
At the funeral?
At the funeral. And then I will cry. And if I do die first, which I probably will, I will have this to say. I will have this and this momentous event etched on my tombstone, in quotes. Knuckles beat B for Boomer and restored the integrity of the Corman. May Kevin forever rest in peace for this great achievement. That is what my tombstone will say. 3 exclamation points. Miss you, bro. See you soon. I hope. Yeah. So listen, I know that some of you on the Corman will actually commend me for that kind of commitment, but I really have to say,
that was by far your lowest point.
yeah, I mean, in terms of fantasy, that was easily the lowest that I've ever sunk. Boomer then actually took a bunch of guys out of his lineup, basically told me to fuck off. It doesn't mean that much to him, and that I can have the win. And then I basically begged him to reset his lineup because I am like a schizophrenic fucking weirdo. In the end, it didn't matter. Tom Brady put up like 9 points. I ended up running away with the victory. But Boomer, I love you. I'm going to miss you next year when you're not in the Corman. And I am, once again, I am so sorry for that weird, crazy meltdown that I had on Sunday morning. We'll be back.
Playoff watch.
2016. With only 3 weeks of competition remaining, we feel it is now appropriate to start talking about the playoff picture here in the Corman, where things stand right now, and where it might go in the future. So here we are. We're going to take a look at our state-of-the-art graphics. And if you take a look, you see that our top 6 teams, as it stands right now, okay, notice that there was only 1 game separating the 1 seed from the 6 seed, all right? You see Teabaggers right now on tie-breaking criteria with a 7-3 record would go in as the 1 seed, And the leader of the other division, Dak Attack, also by criteria, leads his division with a 7-3 record.
No, Mike leads his division with more than criteria.
You're right. I'm sorry. He is the overall number one team in the Corman by criteria, getting that criteria over both Dak Attack and Adrian Peterson, who share a 7-3 record.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for clarifying. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Mike is by himself in first place in his division. Things a little bit tighter in Dak Attack's division with Adrian Peterson right on his heels. But look, in 1 week, that could all change. Teabaggers could lose first place. I mean, who knows what's going to happen, right? In terms of the third seed...
I can only hope.
Right, yeah, because that would be you jumping up trying to take it, right? Peterson gets the 3 seed as of right now with a 7-3 record. Dolomite, you're sitting there in the 4 spot. Not a bad place to be with a 6-4 record. And if the playoffs started today, you would go against Beers in the first round.
Who?
Beers.
Who the hell is that?
Exactly. And then, of course, this guy every
Flames,
time...
we love you, by the way.
We do. He does. Look, you can't count this guy out. He's a multiple-time champion. I Suck, after getting off to a horrendous start and changing his name to I Suck, has anything but sucked since then. He's sitting there in the 6th spot right now with a 6-4 record.
No, I mean, he still kind of sucked. He's just sucked less than his opponents every week.
Right, yeah, and he has, let's face it, we were joking around tongue-in-cheek before, but he really has benefited from some favorable matchups. But look, I mean, all that gets factored in, right? I mean, in the end, you just got to win each.
A win is a win.
Yeah, so it doesn't even really matter. Now, on the bubble, we have a whole host of teams. We have 5 teams sitting there on the bubble with a realistic shot of making the playoffs. You got High on AJ's Green, Kickers Lives Matter, Bombo Berry, and Go to Hell Bell, all sitting at 5-5. And then, of course, Knuckles with a 4-6 record with a win last week over Boomer, barely keeps his playoff hopes
really
alive.
like how you snuck yourself into the bubble. I really like that. Here's the bubble. 4 teams who are 5-5 in a game out of the playoffs, and Knuckles.
Now, in fairness to me, I would have put CJ in there too if he had managed to win his game.
Okay.
I would have because I really
technically, I guess 2 games out is on the bubble. You are on the bubble.
Right. I mean, now if it were 2 games out with 2 weeks remaining, I don't think I would have put myself in. You might not see me there next week, depending on how things shake out.
Right.
But I think, look, I mean, as much as I'm trying to downplay it,
by shake out mean you lose.
Right. Yes. Then I would be off of there.
Yeah,
but if I win, then I'm hanging around still, right? I mean, but
if you win, you'll be in the bubble.
Then I'll still be on the bubble. I don't know if I'll be in the bubble means you're in the playoffs. On the bubble means you're not. Let's see where that saying comes from.
In the bubble, on the bubble.
So that's 11 teams out of our 14 that are still in contention. And CJ was very, very close, dropped a close decision, and he basically eliminates himself. He's 3-7. Boomer and Mohawk Maniacs both sitting at 2-8.
Not good company to be in.
No,
CJ.
No. And we'll get to CJ's response to that loss a little bit later. But yeah, I mean, it's that's basically the playoffs when you look at it right now. We have a lot of familiar faces in there. And let's face it, it's been a season of ups and downs. Even the people at the top, I mean, even Teabaggers, who's our overall number 1 team, in the beginning of the season was really in a moment of crisis.
I mean, yeah, I'm looking at it now, and all the teams in the playoffs, I would say, are all trending up. On the bubble, though, I mean, Bailey is up at High on AJ's Green, have been having a crazy up and down season. Kickers Lives Matter is trending down.
Oh, yeah, 4 straight losses, definitely.
Bombo is another one of those teams where he could win any week, but he just hasn't gotten it going. Hellbell.
Go to Hellbell. Go to Hellbell. I abbreviate teams.
Hellbell. I was like, who's Hellbell?
Who's Hellbell?
He's trending up.
He's trending up.
And then there's you who's trending up.
Right, and I'm trending up too. So on the bubble, it's a very mixed bag. But in the playoffs right now, in the playoff picture right now, you're right. It's all teams who lately have been performing very, very strongly.
I wouldn't want to play any of those teams.
I mean, look, Teabaggers and Dak Attack both lost last week. They're the only teams in the playoff picture right now that lost last week.
Yeah, and they were looking good, sitting alone up top, and they both lost, and it has just made it a heated battle now.
It has, and I don't think any less of those teams. I don't have anything to say about how those teams are trending off of those losses. I still have confidence that those teams can win at the very least 2 out of their last 3. and possibly go in as the top seeds. But let's face it, when you have one game separating the first through the sixth seed, I mean, you could have I Suck end up as the first seed at this point. You just never know how it's going to shake out.
Yeah, that's not going to happen, but it could happen. How about let's look at the remaining schedules.
Okay, so when we look at our remaining schedules, and you look at the combined records of the opponents on that schedule, a couple things stand out to me. Dak Attack, really in a good position to try and make a run at that number one seed. He's got a tough matchup against Go to Hell Bell,
his rival.
Right, and by the time he faces me next week, I may have lost all my momentum, theoretically, right?
I mean, yeah, and then he's got a layup in last week against Boomer.
Right. So really, he, when you look at it, has the most favorable schedule of the teams that are in the playoff picture. When you look at teams outside the playoff picture, Kickers Lives Matter. I mean, a very favorable matchup this week, and if he can win that and get back on track, then he might have the kind of momentum he needs to finish strong. All of his opponents at an 11-19 record combined going down the stretch.
That's interesting because, like I said, he's one of the teams that's trending down. So,
yeah, I mean, these
matchups
does
I don't think are as easy as it looks.
No, it's not. It's not. But you know what? When you just look at the strength of schedule based on the most rudimentary metric, which is the overall record, I mean,
yes,
it's not a bad place to be.
As far through the season we are, that's a good sample size.
Absolutely, yeah. That's why you can't do something like this in week 4 or 5. I mean, you really have to be late in the season before you can really get a feel on what teams are competitive and where teams are trending coming down that final stretch.
Shit, a month ago you were 1-6.
Yeah, and now look at me on the bubble. In terms of teams with the hardest uphill battle, if you look at High on AJ's Green and if you look at Knuckles, 2 teams on the bubble, we would really have to overcome the odds if you just look at those records. Both of us facing a 19-11 opponent strength of schedule going down the stretch.
You have a brutal stretch.
I really do.
Going against Peterson this week, who Alshon Jeffrey's out. He got suspended.
Alshon Jeffrey out. Julio Jones on a bye week. Look, if ever I was going to beat a team as strong as Peterson,
I mean, for a 7-3 team, you can't ask for more than that.
No, you're right. You're right. I got a very favorable matchup. But you know what? A team that's 7-3 in a league as competitive as ours, I would never want to underestimate them either. I mean, they are where they are for a reason. Mm-hmm. They put together a great team.
Then you got old Riverboat Jack the following week, and I just heard minutes ago, actually, that he just won a DraftKings tournament, first place. Won like $11,000. So congratulations to old Riverboat Jack.
Old Riverboat Jack. Just keep rolling those dice. Eventually, you're gonna roll something favorable. And then I would end with Kickers Lives Matter. I don't know where they would stand by that final week. But look, I would love, even if both of us were out of contention, I would love to be able to pay him back for a loss that he gave me earlier in the year when he was rolling. And yeah, High on AJ's Green. Also, 2 7-3 teams down the stretch. He's got to face Beers, he's got to face Peterson, and then he's got Kickers Lives Matter in between that. The best outside shot, aside from Kickers Lives Matter, who has
Wait, I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt.
Right.
But what is on mine? I've been having anxiety all day. What does worst inside shot mean next to my name? I've been thinking about that. Does that mean would help?
Okay, wait, hold on. We will get there in just a second.
I don't like the word worst.
Okay, I would get to that in a second. I will just say that in terms of Go to Hell Bell, I gave him the best outside shot because Kickers Lives Matter, losing 4 straight, is really trending down. I mean, that's a really hard thing to turn that momentum around.
Okay.
Whereas Go to Hell Bell has been a little more up and down. Doesn't have that kind of bad momentum that Kickers Lives Matter.
He's got a good team. His team's got swagger.
It does. And you know what? The Steelers being a desperate team down the stretch, I think bodes well for him.
Oh, yeah, dude. 2 weeks in a row, garbage time. Big Ben Antonio Brown. Shout out.
Right, yeah, but I'm talking more about Le'Veon Bell, who is on his team. I think that Le'Veon Bell is really going to start picking it up. And you know what? I'm sure Joe hopes that he is. But with a 12-18 opponent strength of schedule going down the stretch. I would say that Go to Hell Bell probably has the best chance of the teams on the bubble to make a run and try to squeeze in there.
Yeah, his last two matchups, 3-7 and 2-8.
Yeah, I mean that's
BJ and Mohawk.
Right. Yeah. Now, granted, those two owners have integrity. They're not going to roll over, but they're not really playing for anything at that point, and that always I feel factors in. Now, in terms of worst inside shot, all I mean when I say that is that of the teams in the playoff picture as of right now, Dolomite has the hardest strength of schedule, with opponents that have a 17-13 record.
But think of it like this, man. I play CJ 3-7.
Right.
Right? And he's in bye week hell right now.
So chalk that up as a win.
Well, I will not chalk anything up as a win until
Ooh, you hear that, C?
Until after Monday night and I win.
Fair enough.
But I like the matchup.
Okay.
And then I have Teabaggers and Beers, who are two opponents that I need to lose for me to get that top seed.
Mm-hmm.
And I get to play them. What better justice than to do it myself?
Yes. Now you're right.
I like my schedule.
Yes, you hold your destiny in your hands, but that doesn't change the fact that your last two opponents have a combined record of 14-6.
Look, man, it's not good.
But not for nothing. But if something crazy happens and you lose this week, then all of a sudden you're staring down at the barrel of two top caliber teams that you have to face going down.
Both of these teams beat me earlier this season,
and
I will get my revenge.
Okay. I'll have to take your word on that. Look, the whole point of all of this, when you really look at it, we had, like last year, Chris really had a great regular season, really picked it up, and kind of ran away with the regular season record. You were just staring at that camera, a straight stare for a really long time, weren't you?
I will get my revenge.
You will get your revenge. I hope you do, because
I am hungry.
I'd like to see the last name Eichel somewhere on that trophy. That'd be nice.
Laws of probability.
But we are really, really in a tight dogfight. 11 out of 14 teams are still fighting for their Corman lives. I don't know that we've ever had. I'm just speaking. I haven't done any research in past seasons, but I would be hard pressed.
Believe me, the people out there will fire back.
They will fire back with facts.
Our listeners are also our fact checkers.
Thanks for keeping us honest. But I would be hard pressed to find another season where we had so many teams down the stretch that were within 3 games of each other with 3 weeks left to go.
It's competitive.
It is. And look, that's part of what's great about having a 14-person league. Every time I talk to people at work about our league and they find out that we have 14 people, they open their eyes really wide and they stare at me like I'm insane for being in a league with 14 people. I try to explain to them, the waivers are thin, but you have no idea how competitive this league is. From week to week, people are really just putting it all out there, And look, it shows. We get personally invested in this too. I have my meltdowns. People light up the message board like crazy.
I cry at night.
Sometimes. Most nights. But we will be doing this segment every week, all the way up through the end of the regular season. By that time, it will probably be arrivederci for me. But we will be diligent on this. We will be keeping this updated and excited to keep it going to the end of the season.
Oh.
I just thought that's what it was for.
You're a teacher. You don't know what this means?
Oh, yes? I'm sorry. Nobody in Asbury Park raises their hand to speak.
No.
I forgot what that meant.
Yo, Mr. I.
Oh, yes. You have a question.
What's arrivederci?
Arrivederci is Spanish for a whale's vagina. Okay, and now it's time for the moment we've all been waiting for, our favorite segment, the GIF of the week. I'm still pretty sure it's pronounced GIF, but I'm still going to honor the GIF pronunciation, at least until the end of this season, and then we'll make a decision from there. But this week's nominees, here we have our first nominee. If Mario Got the Wrong Power-Up by Go to Hell Bell. Next up, we have a dual nominee. Hashtag Kickers Lives Matters, Trippy Wizard of Oz, GIF, and Bombo Berry's Super Mario Starry Night. Those two blew my fucking mind. And I wasn't even stoned. And our third nominee. Well, there's always next year by Old Dirty BJ. And the winner is... Well, there's always next year by Old Dirty BJ. Here's why you won, Old Dirty BJ. While all of them were good, yours was the most topical. It was the one that said, I just lost, my season just ended, fuck you guys, I'm going home. And that's why you won. So good job, CJ, on winning this week's A Good GIF of the Week.
Now it's time for our Week 11 preview. First matchup, I Suck versus Teabaggers.
In a matchup of two playoff teams, the only guaranteed winner here is everyone else in playoff contention. Next, we have Dak Attack versus, as we record the cast, it's back, baby. Saved.
It's
by
alright, cause I'm saved by Lev Bell.
Dak Attack versus Saved by Lev Bell.
This is my favorite rivalry in the whole Corman. Two bitter rivals, former besties. I'm looking forward to this matchup. It should be very interesting. A lot on the line.
Absolutely.
High on AJ's Green versus Beers.
Beers is 6-4 in the playoffs if they started today. Problem is they don't start today. High on AJ's Green has one of the most powerful teams, can put up points in bunches, and is sitting on the bubble. A lot on the line in this one too. Up next, we got Dolomite Pimp Squad taking on Old Dirty BJ.
I like my matchup this week. CJ's got a lot of buys. I need this win, but one thing's for certain, it doesn't count until you win.
Absolutely.
Adrian Peterson versus Knuckles.
This is going to be a tough one. Adrian Peterson at 7-3 is tied for the best record in the league. I have won 3 straight games, but I'm still a long shot to make the playoffs. I really need this one. Adrian Peterson, you don't really need it that bad. Just give some guys a rest. Next, we have Bombo Berry versus Mohawk Maniacs.
What better matchup for a team that really needs a win this week than to draw Mohawk Maniacs? Looks good on paper, but like I just said about 30 seconds ago, you don't get that W till you get that W.
Yeah, hey Wayne, I think Bombo said that if he beats you, he gets one of your knockoff Chinese football jerseys on the house.
B for our final matchup, B for Boomer versus hashtag Kickers Lives Matter.
If it's one thing my schizophrenic stream of text consciousness may have done, one good thing it may have done is that it may have finally gotten through to Boomer how important it is to set your lineup each and every week. In terms of hashtag Kickers Lives Matter, he is on a 4-game losing streak and needs this game in the worst way. Guys, this is the time of year where every single game counts. The margin for error here is basically 0.
All right, I think that's it for our episode 11 of the Corman Fantasy Cast.
Until next time, Abe, Atque, Vale. These grapes are so sour. I want to win a championship so bad.